You're watching the Prep Rally Podcast.
It's a new year, a new day. Welcome to the Prep Rally Podcast, sponsored by West Termite Pest and Lawn. Graham Thomas here in Northwest Arkansas. Leland Barclay is in the River Valley. And folks, I'd like to introduce to you the newest member of the Prep Rally Podcast team, Ruth Mulvenon. And Sydney, welcome to the team.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I mean, normally I was behind the booth as your producer last year, so it's exciting to be sitting with you guys at the table.
Well, if any of you guys have ever seen some of the videos that Rick Fires and I did, running after each other in the parking lot or doing a dance-off or playing Santa Claus and his elf, I mean, Sydney here had a big part in that. Sydney is going to be taking over as the new host of the show. And Sydney, I'd like you just to take a minute here and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'll keep it brief, but in general, I have loved sports my whole life. I got into it when I was in high school as a sideline reporter, commentator, and naturally went to it, did journalism in college, and then now I'm doing this. I mean, this is something I've always wanted to do, so I'm pretty glad that I get to do this.
Well, you know what they say about high school sports, right, Leland? You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. It kind of gets in your blood, right?
Oh, absolutely. We never know what to expect when we walk into a press box on Friday night or walk into a gym on a Tuesday night. It's just, we never know what to expect, and it's usually well worth our time.
Well, and, the last time we had our Prep Rally podcast, we were saying a very heartfelt goodbye to Rick Fires, who is off in retirement land somewhere. We're happy to get the show back going, and we're out of football season, and we're getting into basketball. And so without any further ado, we're going to turn this thing over to Sydney, and we're going to follow your lead.
All right. Well, since it's basketball season, I thought we could start off with a preview of some of the past games. But the first one I want to talk about is the one that happened in Northwest Arkansas, Har-Ber versus Fayetteville. What are your thoughts on that game?
Oh, what a titanic matchup. Anytime Har-Ber and Fayetteville get together on the basketball court, it's going to be a fun night. Now, the Har-Ber boys defeated Fayetteville, and then the Fayetteville girls defeated Har-Ber. And, it's kind of funny they split like that, because I honestly thought it had a good chance to be a Fayetteville sweep, but that's just kind of why you play these games. You just never know how they're going to turn out. But what an exciting game. You had two of what I think are the better teams in both boys and girls basketball playing on the same night, and that's kind of been a rarity these days. Like usually, sometimes the girls game will be the good game and the boys game not so good, or vice versa. The boys game will be good. But in this matchup in particular, Fayetteville and Har-Ber, I mean, it's hard choosing which of those games is going to be your main game.
Well, little side note for you. You said it was a Titanic type of game. So who was Jack and who was Rose?
Oh my goodness. Well, Jack, we're talking about Jack Dawson here, about to die sitting on or drowning in the cold water in the Titanic. Oh gosh. For a while there, I thought that might be Har-Ber. They're off to a tough start this year from, they lost a tough one at Bentonville West the game before. But I tell you what, if Har-Ber is Jack and they pulled themselves onto that and made Rose share the bookcase with them, because Har-Ber had got a great effort from their whole team really, and got a huge win at Fayetteville. So.
I mean, I'm going to say the opposite. I think Fayetteville was Jack in this scenario because they were so close to getting on that board, but came up short. And I say this because at the beginning, they did have a rough start. I just felt that Har-Ber had more competitiveness. They had more drive, and Fayetteville it took them a while to pick it up. But once they did, I don't know. It's just, they just didn't have that extra something, that extra aggressiveness when playing with the ball. I mean, they did get it close. By 4 points at the end. I give them props for that. But I think looking further down the road, if they want to go to the championship and things like that, they need to have that little extra drive. And I think Har-Ber has that, but also, too, they had that close loss against Bentonville West last week. So I think that was another driving factor for them.
You know, and Sydney, that's one of the beautiful things about high school sports is like just what you said. You know, they had it the other night against Fayetteville. They were jacked up and ready to go. You know, you could have made a case against Bentonville West. They were not ready to go. And Bentonville West beat them in overtime. Was a huge win for Bentonville West. So, you know, I'm going to say that, you know, that was a great win for Har-Ber. We got a long way to go. Har-Ber feels like that they have the talent to compete for a state championship. They've got one of the most dynamic players in all of Arkansas in Cortland Muldrew. He's signed to go play basketball at Washington. He had a lot of Division I offers, including, you know, from several SEC schools, like even, you know, Arkansas had offered him. And, you know, they've got another good player in Hayden Wood, who's a really good player, a really good scorer. So they've got the potential. It's there. It's all there.
They do. I mean, you brought it up. Muldrew really impressed me towards the beginning because, I mean, he had a 3-point shot falling backwards. And I think that was one of the ones I wanted to highlight. But I said, oh, my gosh, like the steadiness that he has, like, and accuracy in his shots, no matter where he is on the court. I was really impressed with that.
He's a special player for sure.
Yeah, and especially with Demarion Lee. You said earlier some of them call him Marley. But yeah, he was one of those players too, where his defense. I mean, he was getting Fayetteville to foul so many times, and I was just impressed by that, especially when they said he was only a sophomore.
Yeah, he's really young.
Yeah,
and you know he has some sophomore moments out there, but when he's playing well,
yeah.
You know, and I know Leland, you probably remember from what you saw from Har-Ber last year. Demarion Lee, whenever, you know, he can really get up there above the rim and do some special things. And of course, we all know Cortland Muldrew is a special talent.
Oh, absolutely. You know, he played his first 2 years at Springdale, then he transferred and went to Har-Ber, and he was good as a freshman. He started as a freshman, made an impact as a freshman. So it's no surprise what he's doing. He's climbing the charts of the 6A West scoring, you know, records, and he's a tremendous player. And then couple him with Hayden Wood, you know, who's another dynamic player. They've, like you guys have said, and like we knew all along, they have all the ingredients, and the fact that we think, and we'll get into this later, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that the state's tournament is going to be in Springdale as well. So that's going to help as well, because you know that semifinal game, having that at home or close to home, is gigantic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't want to, you know, count out Fayetteville yet, though. Brad Stamps is a really good coach. They've got some good players. Xavier Brown is one of the best guards in Northwest Arkansas, and you know they're gonna have a say in the matter. Now, you know they lost some pieces. They're a little bit smaller than they've been, but you know I just if we write off Fayetteville right now, that's a mistake because they're going to be in the mix.
And I know I called them, you know, the Jack of the Titanic. But, you know, who knows? Maybe they could rewrite their ending. Maybe they could rewrite the story where they actually do get on the boat and they actually do surprise some people towards the end of the season. I just think, you know, they keep having those slow starts. They just don't have that competitiveness, at least what it looks like to me when they start off the bat. They get it going, but, I mean, in those championship games, they need to have it off the bat.
So they need to get off the bus is what you're saying.
Essentially, yes. But, I mean, like I said, I think, you know, when you're playing players, especially a sophomore like Demarion Lee, who has the maturity of playing like a senior. I mean, I thought he was a senior the entire time. You have players like that who are young and aggressive like that, and they're playing against these seniors and just tiring them out at the beginning. I mean, those are the younger players that want it. They just have that drive. And Fayetteville, it just didn't look like they had it, even though they got close. Yeah.
You know, and our guy Scotty Bordelon, who covered the game for us, he does a great job helping us on Friday nights and Tuesday nights, and you know his story kind of pointed that out that you know they put themselves in too big of a hole too early. So you're right, they got to get off the bus.
But a final thing too is this is kind of what I was mentioning to a lot of people earlier. You know, I went to Fayetteville High School. Yeah, I'm a Fayetteville alum.
Okay, so we got to get that right off the bat.
I'm not trying to be biased here. I wasn't.
We're not wearing
biased.
any purple
No.
over here.
Exactly. I was trying to be neutral over here. I was trying to be unbiased. But what I noticed too is that the lack of the environment at these high school games. I mean, mind you, I went to a time in high school where my sophomore year of high school, you had Malik Monk playing at Bentonville and you had Peyton Willis playing at Fayetteville. So those games, I mean, I was looking up some of those games the other day. The arenas were packed. I mean, even for the Har-Ber game. And yesterday with the other day with the atmosphere, I'm not going to lie, when I turned on the game, I thought it was a JV game at first. Because one, the players don't look how they used to. Because you watch some of these games, I mean, Malik Monk is still in the NBA. I mean, those are maybe rarities for Northwest Arkansas, those types of players in basketball, as many as there were at that time. But it just didn't seem like the arena had that many people. Like, it just wasn't alive as it used to be.
Well,
And I think for Fayetteville's point, this was a home game. They had some students show up, but I really think if they had that crowd like they did back in the day, they could really start to have that competitiveness from the crowd.
you just never know with these crowds. Because I'll tell you, last year, and I don't know if Leland got to watch this game or not because it was on a Saturday. It was one of those deals where Har-Ber and Fayetteville had to play on a Saturday late afternoon, and that place was jammed to the gills. It was so much fun. Tuesday night, or no, I'm sorry, this was a Monday night game, so there's no telling why the crowd was what it was. But
Yeah.
like Leland said, if either of those teams makes, a state semifinal, being up here, it will be packed.
I mean, hopefully. I mean, how was it in the River Valley, Leland? Who was your top matchup of the week?
Well, I think, Tuesday nights are especially special in the River Valley because Tuesday night is rivalry night in the 5A West between Greenwood, Alma, and Van Buren. They play on 6 of the 8 Tuesday nights. Last week, of course, Van Buren went to Greenwood. This week on Tuesday night, Greenwood went to Alma. Next week on Tuesday, Alma goes to Van Buren. So that's kind of rivalry night. Also next week, Northside and Southside play. So those are always the biggest games in our area, especially with 3 of the teams being in the same conference and then Northside and Southside being in the same conference. Seeing Fayetteville boys last night and you guys were talking about Xavier Brown. Monday night in the loss to Har-Ber, Xavier Brown was held to a season low 5 points. Last night, or on Tuesday night against Northside, he scored 16 points in the second quarter and finished with 23 points. And yeah, he's a tremendous player. Northside led at the end of the first quarter, and then Fayetteville behind Xavier Brown scored 25 points in the second quarter and took command of that game. And then, of course, we talk about Greenwood. Greenwood's off to their first 2-0 in conference play since 2017. And raise your hand if you thought Kane Archer was going to be a good basketball player. Well, I didn't, but he is a tremendous. Okay,
we
we'll
need
give it to
we
you
need
then.
we need to rephrase
I mean,
that.
obviously,
Raise your
Do
hand
what?
if you. We need to rephrase that. Raise your hand if you thought he was going to be a basketball player at all.
well, at all.
I
Yeah,
can't
maybe
even
so.
raise my hand. Like,
know,
I'm
he
still
was-
amazed he's playing.
Hey, I
Yeah,
think
against
when it comes to when you see really competitive, good athletes, I mean, I'm not surprised when they play multiple sports.
well, we like
and
to
you're
see
right.
that.
But now Kane Archer hadn't played basketball in a long time, but you did touch on the thing that makes him and makes the whole team around him good. His competitiveness, because he has that drive, that fire. Against Van Buren, he had 13 points and 7 rebounds. Against Alma in that win, he had 11 points and 3 rebounds. I mean, he's also he had 3 blocked shots in that game against Alma. And he kind of leads that, helps lead that team. Grant Carnes and Jaden Garnes,
Boy, that's not confusing,
are
is
also
it?
2 very good players as well.
Grant Carnes and Jaden Garnes. I saw that one last night on Harold's story. I'm like, wow, that's keeping those 2 separate. Now, luckily, Grant Carnes is such a great football player that won't be too difficult because you talk about another great athlete good at multiple sports. Ladies and gentlemen, Grant Carnes.
You really had to take a pause in between that.
Well, that's
Well,
just,
and Grant Carnes last night, he only played 11 minutes in the game. Of course, he starts, and he had 14 or 17 rebounds last night, and 6 points against Van Buren last week. He didn't score, but he had 8 rebounds, and they were just crucial. I mean, he's such also a competitor, that he makes that team go. So does, Jaden Garnes and, Kane Archer.
You know, Leland kind of touched on it. Greenwood is 2-0, I believe, for the first time in the league since 2017. Sydney may not know this, but as good as Greenwood has been in football the last, I don't know, 20 years, let's just say 20, 25 years, in basketball, boys basketball, that has not been the case. They've had a few good years here and now, but they've really struggled. And it's not because they don't have good athletes. A lot of those good football players have always played basketball too. So it's really good to see Coach BJ Ross and the Bulldogs off to a great start, because they could be really tough, and that they could really make that 5A West conference even more interesting than it already is, Leland.
Agree.
Well, and they held Alma, which returned 5 starters, 2 of the first players off the bench last year. So they returned 7 guys off a conference championship team that went to the second round of the playoffs last year, and they held them to 32 points last night. And here is the stat of the week from the Alma Greenwood boys game on Tuesday night. 0. 3-pointers made by either team. There were no 3-pointers in the game by either team. And I can't remember the last time that I saw that in a boys basketball game, but neither team, they were combined 0 for 24. Alma was 0 for 13. Greenwood was 0 for 11. 0 for 24 from 3-point range, but still Alma gutted it out and won 45-32.
Well, with that being said, here comes a very important question. Who is your Jack and who is your Rose?
Wow. Well, I've got to stay with it's got to be Kane Archer. I mean, his play and just his attitude and his his effort and everything. It would have to be Kane Archer. And then I think for the Rose, I'm going to stay in the 5A West and go with AJ McDonald from Van Buren. She's had in back-to-back conference game double-doubles, 7 on the year now. Last night in a win at Russellville, she had 24 points and 12 rebounds. And against Greenwood last night, Tuesday night, she had 27 points and 12 rebounds against Greenwood. She had 24 points and 12 rebounds in a loss last week. So 7 double-doubles, 2 in a row in the 5A West.
So you're saying Kane Archer was your Jack, like he didn't survive?
Well, he will survive.
Well, looks like we're going to come up on a break here, but when we come back, we're going to give you the top 5 in the Northwest and top 5 in the River Valley. This is Prep Rally. Welcome back to the Prep Rally podcast, sponsored by West Termite Pest and Lawn. I'm here with Graham Thomas of Northwest Arkansas and Leland Barclay of the River Valley. Guys, it is time to give our top 5. Leland, take it away. Who is it?
This is a Gimme 5, the top 5 performances of the last week in the River Valley. Number 1 and number 2, of course, we always start with our players of the week. This week, number 1, the girls' player of the week is Jordan Gramlich of Alma. In a 56-35 win against Russellville last week, she scored 27 points, had 9 rebounds and 3 assists. And then against Greenwood on Tuesday in a loss, she came back with a 17-point and 17 rebound effort for the first 2 games for Alma in the 5A West. Number 2, Maddox Terry of Charleston in a 58-44 win over Boonville last week. Terry scored 43 points and added 13 rebounds. He was 7 of 14 from 3-point range, 4 of 7 from 2-point range, and hit 14 of 18 free throws in the game. He had 20 of Charleston's 23 first-half points in that game. Number 3, we have a trio. Northside's Cameron Schmidt, Hesley Grotjohn, and Ariana Gooden combined for 62 points in a 77-65 win over Fayetteville on Tuesday night. Cameron Schmidt, the transfer from Van Buren, had 23 points. Ariana Gooden matched a season high with 26 points, also pulled down 10 rebounds, and then Grotjohn 13 points. Those three have been tremendous for Northside all year long. And Ariana Goodenow has 1,661 points in her career, continuing just an outstanding effort. And of course, she's going to Colorado to play collegiately. Number 4, we've already mentioned A.J. McDonald for Van Buren, a junior, in a 53-34 win at Russellville. She had 27 points and 12 rebounds. And then in a loss to Greenwood, she had 24 points and 12 rebounds. And she now has 7 double-doubles on the season, including 2 in a row to start 5A West play. 5, we're going to go to a different court, switch it over to volleyball, because the number 5 significant. Michaelyn Freeman of Hackett won the Gatorade Arkansas Volleyball Player of the Year award. That is the 5th player from the River Valley over the past few months to win the Gatorade Player of the Year award, to go with some outstanding athletes, including Kane Archer of Greenwood, who just won the Gatorade Football Player of the Year award.
And including her sister, who won the Gatorade Softball Player of the Year award.
Softball Player of
That's a
the Year.
talented family.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, the Freeman sisters from Hackett, just, I mean, unbelievable athletes there.
Well, with that being said, who's your top 5?
All right, the top 5 for Northwest Arkansas this week. We'll also start with the Northwest Arkansas Democrat-Gazette Players of the Week. Braxton Lindsay of Rogers really kind of took over the ball game on January the 7th against Fort Smith Northside. Just really dominated. He had 25 points in the win, was the best player on the floor. And the big story there was, and really with Braxton Lindsay, this is his last year to play varsity basketball. He'll be a big-time Division I football recruit next year as a senior, and so plans on graduating early. Won't be able to play his senior basketball season, so he's really making a big to-do of this being his last basketball season and really playing well for the Mounties. Our NWADG Girls Player of the Week was Reese Thornton of Farmington. She had 19 points off the bench in a big win over Siloam Springs also on January the 7th. The big thing about her performance, is she went 8 of 8 from the field and 3 of 3 from the free throw line. Just a perfect night shooting the basketball. That Farmington team is really good again, and I'm really excited to talk about one of their games a little bit later on that's coming up. Number 2 is going to be Cortland Muldrew. We've talked about already that he had 25 points in that win at Fayetteville on last Monday night in a makeup game. And, this guy, he had 34, I believe, at Bentonville West, an overtime loss. He's averaging about 28 points a game. He's just he's a highlight show every time he touches the basketball, and just a really good player. Number 3, I'm going to go with Landon Price from Bentonville West. Landon had 18 points and 14 rebounds at Fort Smith Northside last Monday. Just one of the, you look at him, you're like, he don't look like much of a basketball player. He's a big, strong kid, but he just doesn't really have that basketball look to him. But he's a really good player. Kind of a double-double waiting to happen. Is always, kind of one of those backbone players there for Bentonville West. And, the Bentonville West team, they're surprising. They're 3-0, I believe, in the conference and just playing really well. Number 4, Mackenzie Stites at Pea Ridge had 32 points in a win against Prairie Grove on Tuesday night. Coach Heath Neal at Pea Ridge is real big on Stites, just a junior. She's been playing since she was a freshman, and she's a really good player and had a really big night against Prairie Grove. And then number 5, and last, certainly not least, we're going to go with Harrison's Ryder Scribner. He had 30 points on Tuesday as Harrison won at Farmington and handed the Cardinals their first conference loss in 4 years. And Leland, I know the 5A West is one of the leagues you get to see a lot of, and I know you'll look forward to seeing those Harrison boys when they roll through, because that was a huge win for the Goblins.
Well, when we were putting together the basketball football tab, it became very evident that Harrison was going to be near or at the top with with the players that they have coming back from last year, including Scribner. So we knew Harrison was going to be there. And I've heard all year that it's, kind of Harrison and Farmington at the top. And it looks like Harrison certainly made a statement with a huge win on the road on Tuesday night.
There was a nice feature story on Ryder in the Northwest Arkansas Democrat-Gazette on Sunday, written by the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette's Eric Taylor. That whole Harrison team, what they were talking about was, they didn't make the playoffs last year. They were a state semifinalist team the year before that, had everybody coming back and missed the playoffs. And they've taken it personal, and it's not because they weren't a good team. They just play in that tough of a league, right, Leland?
Absolutely, yes. That is the number one reason. It is nothing against Harrison. It is just that conference is brutal. And then you throw in the fact that there's such travel involved. Harrison, Siloam Springs,
Mountain
Russellville,
Home.
and then to the River Valley, and throw in winter and having to come up with makeup games, sometimes 3 in a week, sometimes moving them to back-to-back nights. There are a lot of challenges in that league, on top of it just being a highly competitive league top to bottom.
Well, with that being said, you guys, we're going to take another break here on Prep Rally, but when we come back, we're going to play a new game for the first time on this show and a few other surprises, so stay tuned. This is Prep Rally. Welcome back to Prep Rally, sponsored by West Termite Pest and Lawn. All right, you guys, you ready to try a new game?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be. How about you, Leland?
Absolutely. Bring it on.
You know what? I love the enthusiasm, you guys. All right, so we're starting a new game here on Prep Rally, and it's going to be called On the Clock. So every week, you're going to have each of you 2 minutes to discuss. You're on the clock. Literally, I'm going to time it, to discuss whatever topic we have for On the Clock that week. So this week, the On the Clock topic is top matchup of the week. And so how it's going to go is I'm going to give each of you 2 minutes to explain your top pick, and then we're going to have our producer, Diana, pick who she thinks had the better argument.
Oh, wow. I'm going to lose this every time. You know
No,
that,
you're
right?
not. My gosh. You got it. What about you, Leland? How do you feel?
Well, I kind of would agree with Graham.
You guys got it. All right, who wants to go first? You want to rock, paper, scissors? Who goes first?
I'll go first.
Okay. You were ready.
I was ready for rock, paper, scissors, but okay, Leland can go first.
Okay. All right, Leland, when you hear the timer go off, it means you're done. No matter if you're in the middle of a sentence, you got to
Okay.
stop. Okay? You're good to go in 3, 2, 1.
Well, my big one has got to be the 5A West Tuesday night rivalry night. There's 6 of them in the 5A West, 3 in the first half, 3 in the second half, and there's none of them bigger than Alma at Van Buren. It's a dogfight between the Airedales and the Pointers. Alma suffered a loss on Tuesday night against Greenwood, so they're going to be hungry. Van Buren lost to Greenwood last week, 43-41. They were held without a basket, without a point for 5 minutes in a crucial stretch of the fourth quarter and lost that game. So they're looking to bounce back. They're at home hosting Alma, which won the conference championship last year. They went 13-1. They've already lost a game this year. They were a heavy favorite to repeat as conference champions with 5 starters returning. They're still loaded, but now they have a loss early in the season. One thing they talked about at Media Day was last year they were the hunter. They went into the conference with a little under a 500 record, and just kind of surprised everybody. They're not surprising anybody this year, and including on Tuesday night against Greenwood. So Alma lost at home. Van Buren's looking to win a conference game. So that is the game of the week in the River Valley. Alma at Van Buren in a key 5A West game.
Wow, with 32 seconds left to spare.
Well, I
Congratulations.
talk fast.
I'm going to wave the white flag right now.
No, you can't. You haven't even tried it already. Well,
I'm gonna talk really slow, like Mountain Man, and
you're gonna be ready in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so my big game of the week is going to be the Springdale Boys visiting Bentonville West, and if you had told me even a week ago or so that this would be a huge game, I would have laughed in your face. But Bentonville West is really on a roll. They have picked up, they've beaten Har-Ber in conference play, and then they have won at Northside, and then they walloped Rogers last night. So they are 3-0 and feeling good about themselves. And so, a game that I would have thought that Springdale Boys, which is just loaded, the Springdale Boys are just loaded with talent. It's sick. And I thought and they may very well go in there and roll up Bentonville West pretty good. But the way Bentonville West is playing under first-year coach Trent Lloyd, I'm gonna say that this is gonna be a heck of a ball game. It should be one of those atmospheres, City, that you would appreciate, because the Bentonville West student section is pretty good. The Springdale Boys, we've all kind of circled them. They've got Isaiah Seeley, they've got Jackson Conley, they've got the name of the guy, Cy Bates, I think is his name. Malik Sosa.
Leland, you can't interfere.
They've just got all kinds of talent right on down the line of good players, and Bentonville West is going to roll out these guys who don't look as good as Springdale does in a uniform. But I just feel like it's got all the makings of a really good ball game, simply because Bentonville West plays with a chip on their shoulder. So that is my game of the week, and I'm sorry, but not sorry about it. So
15 seconds left to spare. I will have to say, I don't know. I mean, I want Diana to pick, but Leland, I think that was an interference call on the clock.
Sorry. I was just helping him out with Cy Bates.
Leland, for anyone who doesn't know, he's like an encyclopedia of sports. He knows so much of everything about high school sports. But with that being said, Diana, hold up a 1 if you think Graham won, and hold up a 2 if you think Leland won. Okay, Graham is saying, and Diana is saying Leland. So Graham and Diana are saying Leland. Congratulations.
Even with the 15-yard penalty.
He has a bevy of notes in front of him, though. Like, you just can't see them. Like, he might even have a board there. Like,
then that might be 2 interference. Leland, that might be 30 yards. I don't know.
I blame the cat at home.
No.
So. She keeps me up at night.
The cat ate his homework.
Right. No, what it is, I come home from a long day of covering basketball, and she makes me forget everything that, she just rubs up against my leg and, oh, Daddy, you're home, and all that. So, no, I'm just kidding.
OMG.
No, that Leland's right, though. That Alma Van Buren is going to be a heck of a, if I could skip out on what I'm doing, I'd go down there to watch that one.
Yeah. Well, to feel included, I was going to do something a little off the rails. I'm going to have a bummer of the week. Is that okay with you, Leland?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness. I've seen the bummer of the week. In fact, I was there.
Yeah, so I thought we should have a bummer of the week, because it's not all, happy-go-lucky in basketball and high school basketball right now, I think. I think one of the teams to watch out for is Springdale. Our producer's alma mater, which she's excited about, because for the first time in a long time, they're actually really good at basketball.
And they've got a beautiful new arena, Leland. Yeah. I can't wait for you to see it.
That's true. But so, yeah, I was really impressed with Springdale. Their win against Rogers, 74-59. I thought they looked great in that game. But then last night, Springdale versus Rogers Heritage. That's my bummer of the week. I was really impressed by Springdale, but with Heritage, it was just one of those where, I'm not going to lie, y'all, my first reaction, because it was 81-27 victory, and it kind of reminded me of the Arkansas versus Nicholls State game in football when they won 77-7, because I'd never seen a deficit that large before other than that football game. So that was kind of a bummer to me. I mean, good for Springdale, but Heritage has a lot to work on. I mean, I watched the first quarter of that, and it just really didn't change after that.
Well, in fairness to Rogers Heritage, Springdale has the capability of making a lot of teams including Bentonville West, look that bad. So
Yeah.
when they're on and playing well, and it really kind of snowballed on Heritage. I was there last night, and it was just a tough deal.
Every time you say I was there last night, you just sound so disappointed.
Oh well, it's a long season and a lot of late nights during basketball, and with football season, you kind of gear up for that Friday night, and then you have all day Saturday. Well, I had to get up and go to work this morning, so Leland didn't have to get up and go to work anymore.
Oh, wow. Lucky, Leland. What the heck?
Very blessed. Yes.
Well, anyway, to kind of cap it off, is there anything you guys would like to add? We're also, too, we actually had a question come in on our Instagram polls for both of you guys, if you'd like to answer it, a little Q&A style. But who do you think is going to be the standout player for the upcoming games this weekend? Like, who do you think out of all the games is going to be the standout player? There can only be one.
Okay,
for each of you.
I'll go first, and I'm going to go Isaiah Seeley, and this is why. He picked up 3 fouls less than 4 minutes into the game last night against Rogers Heritage. And the Arkansas signee Isaiah Seeley didn't really get to play a whole lot. I think he is going to have a big game on Friday against Bentonville West, or will play a large role in it. So he's my pick.
Okay, Leland.
Well, I'm going to go back to the Alma and Van Buren game. And, one guy that we've not heard much from this basketball season, we heard a lot from him in football. We've heard a lot about him in his career. But I think the standout guy, the guy that's going to be the difference in the Alma and Van Buren game, and I bet Graham's sitting there and he knows what I'm going to say.
I know who you're talking about. Trenton Cooley.
Trenton Cooley's really good. Yes, you're right. Israel Towns Robinson, because we've heard a lot about Trenton Cooley already in basketball season, and he makes that team go. But I tell you, we haven't heard much about Israel Towns Robinson, and he is a tremendous force down low, and he's almost unstoppable when he gets the ball inside. I think he makes the difference on Tuesday night in the dogfight at Van Buren.
That's a good pick. You mentioned just a couple things here. Up in Northwest Arkansas. So Springdale Har-Ber announced the hiring of Aaron Danenhauer as their new head football coach. He was the offensive coordinator at Bentonville. Got a big, tall task in front of him. We all want to see Har-Ber get back to where they used to compete at in the upper echelons of that conference.
I don't, but also I'm a. I'm a Fayetteville alum. I gotta stay true to my dogs.
If you were to meet Aaron Danenhauer, you'd love him. I promise. He's a Bentonville guy. So if a Bentonville alum can.
Again, I think Fayetteville's the betterville. So
there you go.
Touchy subject there too.
Woo. So another big item coming up on Thursday, the AAA is going to meet down in Little Rock, and the sites for the regional and state tournaments for just about everything, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, track and field, volleyball for the upcoming fall. All that's going to be decided. Henry Apple will have full coverage of all that. Spoiler alert, though, we know that Springdale will get that state tournament, Leland. So we're all, they're the only ones who have bid on that in 6A. So we are excited.
Well, absolutely. And that kind of goes back to the gentleman's agreement that the two 6A conferences have that alternates between the Central and the West. So it's good that Springdale, has the new arena. It's now ready to go, and that's going to be certainly a treat for Northwest Arkansas and the teams in the 6A West that kind of get to play close to home. So that's a big deal. Of course, 5A and on down, who knows?
Yep. Alma in the bidding for 5A. It'd be great to have it back at Alma. Sydney, if you've never been to a basketball game at Alma, it's a real treat. Other big games coming up. Just one last thing for me. We mentioned Springdale and Bentonville West. Also on Friday, Northside and Bentonville girls are going to play. That's going to be a real good game. Then on Tuesday, your Fayetteville Bulldogs are going to be at Bentonville West, another big matchup. Bentonville and Rogers play. And how about this one, Leland? I bet even you would travel all the way to Mountain Home to go watch Farmington's girls play at Mountain Home on Tuesday.
That may very well be for the conference championship, at least one of two meetings. Now, it's hard to believe that we're this deep into the first Prep Rally podcast of the basketball season, and we have not mentioned the Greenwood Lady Bulldogs yet. So that's a shocker in itself. You know, they've won the last 3 state championships. So to say that Farmington and Mountain Home is the game that's going to decide the conference championship, I think the Lady Bulldogs are sitting there saying, "What about us?" Kyla Piercy and Izzy Smith. You know, they played the final non-conference game of the year. They played was against Bryant. Piercy and Smith combined for 50 points in that win. The next Tuesday against Van Buren in the 5A West opener, they combined for 56 points in that game. Now, against Alma on Tuesday night, they were held to 15 apiece. I say held to 15 apiece. That's still 30 combined points. Alma came back and won, or Greenwood came back and won 52-44. But, you know, Greenwood has still got something to say about that Farmington Mountain home game, but it is a big one.
Leland, did you have anything you needed to get mention about the River Valley?
Well, of course, you know, we've still got, you know, a lot of things going on, but the Sequoia County tournament in Oklahoma just wrapped up. Roland won their second straight Sequoia County tournament championship. Muldrow, the number 2 seed, came out of the boys and defeated Salisaw Central, which knocked off top seed Roland in the semifinals. Muldrow won that game 57-47. And we talk about players in the River Valley, and we talked about Tegan Collins a lot during football season. He is a highlight waiting to happen on the basketball court as well. I think he had 3 slams the other night, 11 points, 9 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 slams, and he's just a tremendous player. And of course, coming up next week is the annual LaFleur County tournament, which now goes back 100 years, consecutive years that's been played. Both Pecola teams are the top seeds, and Alyssa Parker of Pecola going to Oklahoma to play softball. Well, she just went over the 2,000 point mark in her basketball career too. So she's a pretty good, you know, basketball player as well. Of course, we have wrestling, swimming, bowling going on. The indoor cross country or the indoor track season's upon us too. So it's a very, very busy January and February. But anytime we talk about sports in January and February, we always have to say weather permitting.
Well, with that being said, you guys, it has been a great first show. And we will see you next week here on Prep Rally. Another thanks to our sponsor, West Termite Pest and Lawn. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday.